When you're driving a car in New Jersey and get pulled over, do you have to do everything an officer tells you to do during that stop? Well, there's certain things you absolutely have to do, and there's a lot of things that you don't have to do. But you do need to know your rights. Need to know the difference between what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, what you can do, and what you can't do. Because one wrong move, one extra word, one extra sentence could jam you up. And the truth is, most people have no idea what their rights are during a traffic stop, partially because they don't know what the law is, but also because laws vary from state to state. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you the 7 things you absolutely need to know about the laws in New Jersey if you're involved in a motor vehicle stop. So you'll know what you need to do, what you don't need to do, and how to protect yourself so you don't get jammed up. Hi, I'm Dan Rosenberg. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I represent individuals charged with criminal offenses and traffic violations all across the state of New Jersey. And a lot of criminal charges as well as traffic violations are the result of traffic stops. So I've compiled 7 things you should absolutely know about operating a motor vehicle in the state of New Jersey. The first is that police can order you out of your vehicle for no reason whatsoever. If you are the driver of a vehicle and the officer pulls you over, he can ask you to step out of the vehicle, whether he suspects you to be under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or for no reason whatsoever. It has to do with officer safety. So if you're operating a motor vehicle and the officer tells you to get out of the car, you have to comply. The second thing you need to know is that the law is different with regard to passengers. If there is a passenger in the car, the law enforcement officer cannot automatically order them to exit the vehicle. They need to have some reason articulable that they can point to that calls into question their officer's safety. Now, it's not a high threshold, but they can't simply order the passenger out of the vehicle the way they can a driver of the vehicle. The third thing you should know is that if you are operating a motor vehicle in the state of New Jersey, there's 3 things that you are required to provide to a law enforcement officer if you're stopped: your driver's license, the registration of the vehicle, and proof of insurance. If you don't have your driver's license, you do have to identify yourself to the law enforcement officer. Outside of that, there's no requirement for you to turn over any additional documents. The fourth thing you should absolutely know is that you do not have to answer any questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Have you had anything to drink tonight? Is there anything illegal in your car? What's that I see over there? Who's this person in the back seat? None of those questions need to be answered. Now, I am not saying that you should sit there and tell the person to go pound sand and create a confrontation. I think it benefits you to be cordial, to be polite, and to very respectfully say, I'm not comfortable answering any questions. But you're under absolutely no obligation to say anything. If you say you're coming from a bar, how do you think that's going to be held against you? They're going to start investigating you for a DUI, whether they smell alcohol or not. Do you know why I pulled you over? Doesn't matter why they pulled you over. Now you're providing information that's going to be used against you. Keep your mouth shut, but be polite. The 5th thing you need to know is, contrary to popular belief, and regardless of what you see on TV, if you're asked to provide a breath sample, you absolutely do. Now, the police can't just ask you to provide a breath sample for no reason whatsoever. They need to have some reasonable, articulable suspicion that you may be under the influence of alcohol or some other drug. So if they smell the odor of alcohol, you were speeding, if you're driving with your lights off, this allows them to say, I think you're under the influence, I want you to provide a breath sample. And that is due to the implied consent laws in the state of New Jersey, that if you're operating a motor vehicle, you are consenting to a sample of your breath if there is a reasonable suspicion that you're under the influence of alcohol. Also, these breath samples are not something that's done at the side of the road. Other states have portable breath machines that they'll ask you to provide a sample on. Not in New Jersey. They're going to bring you back to the station, they're going to sit you down, they're going to read you a statement, and they're going to ask you to consent. And if you don't consent, you're going to be charged with refusal to provide a breath sample. That's going to be charged in addition to DUI. And if convicted of both, now you've got a DUI conviction with penalties and a refusal conviction with penalties, and they stack on top of each other. Now, the 6th thing you need to know relates to something that you can refuse, and that is providing a sample of blood or urine. In the state of New Jersey, if you're asked to provide breath, you have to comply. If you're asked to provide a blood or urine sample, there is no requirement that you consent. But if you do decide to provide consent, it has to be knowing, voluntary, and explicit. It has to be explained to you that you have the right to refuse, and you can change your mind at any time. And while it doesn't have to be in writing, typically it is. Now, if the police go out and they get a warrant to draw your blood, you have to comply with those lawful warrants. But if you refuse or do not provide consent, that means the police have to go and request a warrant from a judge and take additional action. Now, this is a significant right that you have, because if you're suspected to be under the influence of drugs It is a requirement that they seek out your blood or urine, and you still don't have to provide a sample. The seventh thing that you should know during a traffic stop in the state of New Jersey is you have absolutely no obligation to consent to the search of your car. Similar to blood or urine, if you decide to provide consent, it needs to be knowing, it needs to be voluntary, and you can change your mind at any time. It doesn't need to be in writing, but typically is, because it needs to be explicit and clear. If you are asked to provide consent, you do not have to. And if you refuse, law enforcement can then attempt to search your car under an exception to the warrant requirement, or they have to go and request a warrant from a judge and cannot search your car until they do so. There's plenty more that you need to know about your rights, your constitutional rights, your New Jersey constitutional rights, and what you can or can't do during a motor vehicle stop. These are just the 7 most important things that everyone should be aware of. If you or somebody you know has been charged with a crime, a traffic offense, or just has questions about their rights, please feel free to contact our office. We're here to help.